Well, a lot's happened here in the first month plus of the new year. The policies, economic changes, the climate of the country. What does it all mean? Plus, the Fed had an update as well. We're going to give you the latest with Bill Litton of Cross Country Mortgage on what he's watching in February. Welcome in. Glad to have you on the Smart Mortgage Show. I'm Ben George with Bill Litton, Regional President of Cross Country Mortgage. Bill, we're off to a quick start in January. A lot happening. It hasn't been quiet, has it?
It hasn't. It seemed like what usually could be a quiet January. It got very quiet in November with the election. I think a lot of people were paused because they were waiting to see what happened. And then after that pause, they naturally kind of got back into the swing of things a little bit in December. But January's been busy. So seeing a lot of people getting pre-approved, seeing a lot of optimism for people buying homes this year, seeing a lot of people saying, I've waited around long enough, and hoping that the market and the interest rates specifically are ready to start to move in a downward, direction.
Yeah. We're going to give you a little update on that today. Again, if you have questions for Bill, always recommend getting in touch. Have that first introductory meeting, that mortgage and loan consultation. It's the best place to start. Just text the word LEND to 21,000 to get started. So, Bill, what are you watching then? I know the Fed just, I guess, had an update here recently. I'm sure that was probably big on your radar.
Yeah. So anytime the Fed makes an interest rate policy decision, it's big on our radar. Now, this time there was 100% certainty that the Fed was not going to lower the federal funds rate again at this Fed meeting. And so knowing that, I think the markets had already digested that. So really, when the Fed made that decision, the market stayed neutral because it was already baked in that it was going to be uneventful. And then after the Fed makes their decisions, we often say that it's the press conference afterwards when the Fed chair will talk and go into more detail about the direction and what the Fed thinks and believes the policy is going to be going forward. There was a little bit of a hawkish tone on rates, meaning that there weren't as much in a rush to lower the federal funds rate as quickly as they had thought previously. But the market didn't react to that either because, sometimes there's rhetoric truly from the Fed, hopeful that the market will do certain things based on what they're saying. And then also there's rhetoric in the markets. And a lot of times there's a belief about what might happen. And that belief can only change things for the short term. And then the market has to get back to digesting the reality of things. The reality of things is that it does seem like the markets are slowing a little bit. The economic indicators are still indicating inflation is cooling, markets are cooling, not as quickly as they thought, but overall a cooling, which is good for interest rates. So I think interest rates and the smart money digested that information. And, we did see rates jump up, since September 18th when the Fed started lowering interest rates. Rates of in 30-year fixed rate mortgages have increased since then, but we've seen some cooler inflation numbers. There have been other economic indicators that are, showing that the market is cooling. And I think rates are, at least at this point, they're not plummeting by any stretch, but they're kind of remaining calm, and that's a kind of a big change compared to what we've seen, with markets being very, very turbulent over the last few years.
Yeah, turbulent indeed. I'm curious how much. I know, Trump obviously took office January 20th, and there's been a lot. I mean, he hit the ground running. He's enacted a lot of policy changes. Is that stuff that you're watching, Bill? Do you think like a lot of the stuff happening at the federal level will have any kind of impact on the real estate market and particularly, home buyers?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think there again, when Trump won the election, even before he took office, a lot of people in the financial world and bond traders, and they thought, well, Trump could stimulate the economy, which is inflationary, and then interest rates, right, took a defensive position and rates went up. But then the market said, well, even if he was going to do any of that stuff, it'd take years for it to actually hit the market to make an impact. So the reality of the situation is that as of right now, none of that has happened. So rates kind of calmed back down. He had a lot of executive orders on his first day in office. I don't think any of those really impacted interest rates, although he himself saying that he's going to do everything he can to help lower interest rates. Like, he demands interest rates be lower. So again, it's one thing that he says that, we know where his head is at, but what are the tools? What are the actions? What are the laws? What is he going to put in place that actually lower interest rates? We need to see that happen before he himself has an effect on bringing rates down or causing them to go up.
I got you. All right, so February is a short month. Bill, what do you guys have on your radar this month, both at cross country and for yourself personally here in the mortgage industry?
So what we're always looking at is where the market is. How do we maximize your ability to get a good rate based on where the market is, no matter where it's at, whether rates are 20% or 2%? Do you want 20.5% or do you want 20%? But rates being in the upper 6% range, right? Look, if we can save you 1/8% because we looked at the market the right way, that's where we can actually step in and have some control and help your scenario. So we're watching markets day in and day out, looking for opportunities to lock your rate at the right time. Also watching, we can float down your rate if we've locked it and rates get better, we can renegotiate to a lower rate. So we're kind of looking at what is it that we control and how can we use those tools to help you with your interest rate and ultimately a big impact on your personal finances.
Yeah, I know we're obviously still in the middle of winter. We've been feeling it for quite some time now, but I know spring is right around the corner. Do you expect us to kind of start seeing the market shift a little bit in terms of inventory coming on and just things start to pick up some?
That definitely will be the case. We're going to see a lot more homes come on the market. The seasonality to that is absolutely at play here. So usually they say the spring market starts after the Super Bowl. So we definitely expect a lot of houses to come on, which is going to mean a lot more opportunity for people looking to buy as inventory gets, a little bit more available. It gives people a lot more options.
Very good. Well, you mentioned the Super Bowl, Bill. So before we get out of here, this will be publishing right before the Super Bowl. I'm sure you guys have a pretty big interest, and a lot of people that you work with have a pretty big interest in the Super Bowl, huh?
Yeah, we're really excited. Through the 80s and the 90s, we paid our dues. We had, we didn't, make it far. If we got into the playoffs, we usually didn't get out of the first round. So we've had some really good teams in the 2000s. This team looks as good as any of them, actually. And based on what we saw last weekend and the way that we beat the Bills, I feel like going into this Super Bowl against Kansas City, we've got a really good shot.
I'm excited to watch. I know a lot of people have their eyes on this one, both because they don't like the Chiefs in many cases, and of course, a lot of people you work with being there in Chadds Ford, Pennsylvania, which is just right outside of Philadelphia. So should be a pretty big weekend. You guys have any big plans?
You know what? It's usually just, some friends and family hanging out at home.
Yeah.
Some good food and, good company and hopefully a good Eagles win.
Love it. Well, hopefully it's good news all around for you and also for home buyers going forward this year. We'll continue to monitor things, share updates here as we have them on our market update here on the channel. So please subscribe if you haven't already. We appreciate you watching the Smart Mortgage Show. This program is for informational purposes only. Please consult a qualified professional before taking any action. Bill Litton is a loan advisor and regional president with Cross Country Mortgage, NMLS number 147060.